Well, Blossom and I are cousins, so just for the record, we fight all the time. So I think that actually helps us collaborate well together. Writing is a very sacred process, and I think Blossom and I are able to be very honest with one another and tell each other what we like and what we don't like. And so I think that was definitely very important. And you know, we get together a lot in the city, have dinners, and we talk about our lives, our friends' lives, and we say, wouldn't it be cool to write a book about a compilation of these stories? And then we just did. And so here we are now with our second book. It's pretty exciting.
That's kind of how we decided to start writing together. We started writing down some stories that had happened to us, that had happened to our friends, and then that became a novel, which was our first book, China Dolls. We ended up going to a convention where we ended up signing an agent and ultimately got our first book, China Dolls, published. So it was a little bit of luck, I think, but a lot of perseverance too. Certainly, we had to get on a plane and go out to San Diego and go to this convention. And this is something that's completely new to both of us. I'm a lawyer, Michelle's a reporter, but neither one of us knew anything about this whole process before we got into it. So it started off like that, and as Michelle said, we just enjoyed writing together, and I think a lot of that has to go to the fact that we can be very honest with each other. And when you have a writing partner, one of the questions we get a lot is, what's it like to write together? Is it hard to have a co-author? And there are some difficulties, but it's easier for us, I think, than a lot of co-authors because we can be honest and critical. If Michelle sends me something and I look at it and I say, no, this does not work at all, I can say that to her, which is something that I think you might have a harder time doing to someone who's a friend because you don't want to hurt their feelings and ruin the friendship. But since we're related, we're pretty much stuck with each other no matter what.
Well, I think in the beginning we talk about ideas and topics, and then we just start writing. So Blossom will say, Michelle, why don't you just start writing about a scene that takes place at this restaurant? And I'll write the restaurant scene, and then she'll look at it and she'll start writing like what happens after that, and then we decide that maybe we should switch it up and do something different or add something before it or put something after it. So at the end of the day, everything is sort of a mishmash of what we wrote. So I can't even really tell who wrote what by the end. Like if I open the book right now, I don't really recall like what I wrote and what Blossom wrote. It's just all together.
I mean, one of the things we learned is that a lot of writing is rewriting. We start off, and I think a lot of people think that, you know, when you start writing a book, you just start writing and you write from page 1 to page 300, and that really isn't how it works. What is more true to life is that you start writing, you rewrite it, the other person rewrites it, and by the 20th rewrite, you have what's the ultimate result of both of our efforts. And so, and I think that is what we ultimately strive for, because you do want to have one cohesive voice throughout the book. You don't want it to seem like two different people are writing the book. So going through this process helps us come up with one sort of cohesive whole at the very end.
The most difficult thing, I believe, writing together is perfecting the same voice throughout the entire book. And I think that that's the hardest part, getting in sync and being able to say, hey, what I wrote and what Blossom wrote, they're written by the same person. They're co-authored.